Hello and welcome. Yet another edition of the Coach's Corner, where each and every Thursday, Coach Dave Serrano and myself get to spend a little time with college coaches from all over the country. Today, we're going to be out into the great state of Arizona, Grand Canyon University, and I'm really pleased to be joined by our guest today, which is Gregg Wallis, head coach of Grand Canyon University. Wally, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Walter. I'm excited to be on the show and talk to you a little bit about Grand Canyon baseball.
Well, one of the great things that I noticed right out of the gate was that you literally have been part of what I call two jump starts. One as a student athlete at Cal Irvine, and the other now at Grand Canyon, which I believe was 2014. When you and Stank kind of got that program back into the D1 ranks. What can you tell us a little bit about Grand Canyon University, not only as a baseball program, but as a school out on the West Coast?
Yeah, well, you're right. I took the job in July 1st of 2013.
Wow.
I mean, we were transitioning from a Division II to a D1. So 2014 was my first season as an assistant coach at Grand Canyon. And I really didn't know what I was getting into. It was just, I knew Coach Stankiewicz. He had an amazing reputation. And Coach Choate, who's the head coach at Washington State, and I believe was on the show last week. He was the pitching coach at the time, and we had worked together for Coach Serrano at UC Irvine. So, when they transitioned to D1, they called me to come interview for the job, and I took it, not really knowing what to expect, but it's just been the best, decision I could have made career-wise. The school is incredible. What we've done, what the school's done, in the last, 11, 12 years, in terms of the growth on campus. The campus is vibrant. We have 17,500 students, and most of them live on campus in new dorm rooms, new apartments. We have new academic buildings and great facilities. So I didn't really know what I was getting into coming to Grand Canyon, but I think it's a really special place, and we got a good group of players, and our campus life is phenomenal.
One of the interesting things last year, I believe, was opening weekend possibly, but I know you played Tennessee, possibly UCLA was out at that event. Tell us a little bit about Division I baseball in Arizona. People think West Coast, they think there's a plethora of college opportunities, but there really isn't. So between Arizona State, Grand Canyon, and some schools, I assume, in Southern California, what is it like with regard to recruiting for you? Do you go outside the West Coast and look in the Midwest or Northeast? How can prospective students kind of begin to find their way to Grand Canyon?
Yeah, great question. The state of Arizona, there's only 3 Division I schools. We've got Arizona State, University of Arizona, and Grand Canyon University. So that was one of the things, when we got Grand Canyon going, that was a lot different than, say, Southern California, where there's so many options for the kids locally that wanted to stay in state and play Division I baseball. We had, ASU, U of A, and us, and there's plenty of talent out here where we knew that, not everyone can go to Arizona State or U of A, and there's plenty of great players between the high school level here and also our junior college. The junior college conferences out here, the ACCAC is a really, really competitive conference. So I think, we always start, with in Phoenix and Tucson in the state of Arizona between the high school and the junior colleges. But then we've had a lot of success in Southern California as well. A lot of our rosters from Southern California, a couple from Northern California, but most of our roster is Southern California and Arizona kids. And it's for us, it's really convenient. We have a lot of tournaments here in our backyard. So I always suggest to recruits when they email us, send your schedule. If you're going to be in Phoenix and you're from out of state and are interested in Grand Canyon and you're coming in town, send your schedule, send a little video. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but if you send a little video that shows us a bit of your skill set and you're coming into town, there's a good chance that we can go see you. And then obviously our prospect camps are a great way for anyone out of state to come and really showcase themselves and their skill set. So I think there's a lot of information out there about prospect camps and, should you go to them? Should you not go to them? Ours, we take really seriously. We try to put on a great event. We try to it's not just a showcase for the players, it's a showcase for us, how we run our program. So we try to create a great experience for everybody that comes. And then we end up usually finding some talented kids that we end up following, and recruiting seriously that came to prospect camps.
Well, I certainly know that in the Northeast, anybody that wants to get out of Dodge between, say, November and March, Phoenix is a pretty hospitable place. Been to Scottsdale, Phoenix many times, spring training. Would you or have you entertained or looked into any of the student athletes that may not be, in that right in your backyard, so to speak? Are you open to the student athletes that fit your criteria from other parts of the country?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have a kid from Wisconsin on our team this year. We've had a couple kids from Arkansas. Typically, we don't go much further east than maybe West Texas kind of area, but we're definitely not opposed to it. It just has to line up where we can see the kid play. It's important. So it's obviously harder for us to see someone, from the East Coast, from Florida, from the Northeast than it is from Southern California or Arizona. But we're a private school, so we have no limit or no different in tuition and cost, whether we find a kid, from Massachusetts or Arizona. It's the same cost. It's just if we can see them enough to feel like they're a fit for our program. That's the biggest thing. It's with recruiting out of the region.
I think a lot of parents right now, Wally, want to kind of get an idea of, with this new rule with regarding August 1st, everybody is kind of pushing the camp, the camp mindset. Two-part question here. One, are you in favor of the, kind of slowing the process down and letting that student athlete get to their rising junior fall? And secondly, you mentioned the camps. Are your camps really geared towards seeing student athletes? Are you putting them through the paces enough to make a decision or a initial decision on a student athlete at your camp?
Yeah. So for your first question, the first question, well, about the camps, our camps are definitely geared, to identify guys that we want to recruit. Now, the problem sometimes can be that you get a lot of kids at camp, right? You got to put the camp on the internet. And so not every kid that comes is going to be recruitable for us. And most of the time, to offer a kid a scholarship out of camp that you're seeing for the first time is really rare. But a lot of times, we're out all fall, we're out all summer. A lot of the kids that we saw this summer that we liked, and maybe we got to see them play once or twice, we've encouraged them to come to our camp in October. And that can sometimes be the final decision where all the coaches see them at once. We liked them. We're already on them. We're already recruiting them. That's where a scholarship can come from. If it's a kid that just shows up that we've never seen, it's rare that we would offer them a scholarship. But definitely, if someone stands out, we're going to figure out, okay, where are you from? How can we see you again? How can we, go watch one of your club games, one of your high school games? And that's kind of how our camps would work. I don't know that we would just see a kid once at a camp and offer them a scholarship. But if you stand out at our camp and you kind of show us a skill set that we feel can help our program, we're definitely going to figure out how we can see you again. So we definitely use those camps for that. And then back to your original question, the way our program works is we recruit slow. And so I'm all for anything that slows down the recruiting game. And to say that we end up with the same class size as most, competitive schools. But like right now in our 2024 class, we have 4 commitments. And I would say that's pretty low. Most schools probably already have most of their class filled up and are now just maybe adding a couple pieces. So for us, we're still looking for high school seniors and junior colleges. And this year, we're really going to attack some of those junior colleges and find some older players. But it changes year to year, but we recruit slow, and I'm all for anything that slows down the recruiting process.
I'm so happy to hear, so many parents think, as a freshman in high school or sophomore in high school, if there's been no acknowledgement or validation that they're late to the dance, but it couldn't be anything further from the truth, especially not only in light of the new rule changes, but that the game is older, the game is more physical, and I don't foresee that changing. I don't think it has anything now left to do with COVID. So I'm happy to hear that you kind of keep your process slow and steady. I would really love, I spoke with Robbie Woodard yesterday at Charlotte. Would really love your take as a former player, playing for people like John Savage, Dave Serrano, and then transitioning from your post-playing career to coaching. Just talk about the differences when you were a student athlete to now as a coach. Do you take into consideration how these athletes are feeling or, what they need because of your past history as a student athlete?
Yeah. I mean, I think that coaching styles maybe changed a bit, and from maybe when I played, and everyone's kind of looking year to year to grow as a coach. So I probably do some things different now than when I started as an assistant coach. But I learned from great coaches. So starting in high school for Coach Tom Usborne, who's a legend in Southern California, Chatsworth High School, and now Sierra Canyon, going from him to John Savage to Dave Serrano, and all the assistant coaches that I was around as well. I feel like I was very fortunate to be around really great coaches and it's great assistant coaches. And I think I still have some of that style from each coach that I played for and each assistant that I learned from. And then you obviously, evolve with kind of the time and the generation and the kids that you're coaching today. But I'm the same as a lot of coaches. I don't think that the kids that I'm coaching now are much different than when I was in the locker room. I think there's more awareness to, some things that are out there now, and we try to be, kind of aware of what's going on in their personal life, make sure everyone's good from a mental health standpoint and all that. But I don't think things have changed that much, from when I played for Coach Musborne, Coach Savage, and Coach Serrano.
You touched on a topic there, mental health. Where do you see, to me, social media creates this mega expectation, extra weight of expectation, I guess is the best way to say it. Do you see social media as more of a positive, or do you stay neutral on that with regard to, whether it's monitoring your student athletes or prospective student athletes? To me, sometimes I think there's this false sense of the game is easy. Look at this guy, 500-foot home runs. Look at that guy. Do you feel like that mental health component and social media are kind of interwoven at some point with these college student athletes?
Yeah, I don't. That's a great point. I don't know the answer to that. I do know that social media is obviously something that's here and as of right now here to stay. And our guys, it's kind of how they communicate almost now with, it's they're on Instagram, they're on Snapchat, and all that stuff. That's how they communicate with their friends. And so it's a good question. I don't know how much of a role social media plays in that, in the kind of in the mental health areas. But I do know, obviously, we've challenged our guys like, hey, if you have priorities of, getting in the weight room when our team's lifting, we lift at 6:30 this fall every morning, or getting extra work in, and you're distracted by social media and you can't get to sleep on time because you're scrolling Instagram all night long, then it's definitely an issue, So I think it's there. I think it's fun. It's a way for guys to kind of show some of their personality. It's a way for our program to really get out what we're doing. And I think in terms of a program standpoint, being able to put stuff on Twitter and and Instagram and those platforms is great to show how your program's doing, and everyone's using social media, positively for that to kind of show recruits, hey, here's what we're doing over here. But I do think that, if you kind of go down that rabbit hole with social media too much, it can be a negative influence on the player sometimes.
I agree wholeheartedly. One of the things that I'm curious as to your professional as well as personal opinion, in light of all of these realignment issues, where do you think the West Coast baseball is heading? Meaning, you have a lot of the former Pac-12 schools or current going to be former moving, whether it's Big Ten, ACC, et cetera. How do you see Grand Canyon fitting in within that? Do you think they'll ultimately be one big West Coast conference? And, do you think there's an East Coast bias when it comes to at-large bids and things of that nature? Because obviously your program is tremendously strong year after year, as evidenced by, the teams that you play on a weekly basis, but you're playing the Tennessees out of conference. Where do you see Grand Canyon fitting in with the whole West Coast baseball Division I?
Yeah, it's definitely, the conference realignment is definitely a hot topic right now, and things are moving. And it's, I'm from California originally, and I've basically coached most of my career, besides 2 years when I was at University of Tennessee with Coach Serrano in the SEC. I've coached and played in, the Big West Conference and the WAC pretty much, and strong Pac-10, Pac-12 influence being from California,
right?
And now coaching in Arizona. And it's, I thought it was a great conference, and I know there's reasons why it disbanded. And I truthfully don't know what it's going to look like for especially the California schools. I think we're in a good spot because our conference had kind of moved to some growth areas, and we merged with some mid-majors in Texas. We've got schools in Utah and Arizona, and places where population is really growing, and there is funding for athletics right now. So I think the WAC conference is in a pretty strong spot. I don't know what will happen with the realignment, but I know that it's the conference has gotten better and better each year we've been in it. If, starting in 2014 and then to now, it's grown quite a bit. And adding the Texas schools has added a whole new level of competitiveness to the WAC. So can't predict where it's going to go. I think, for kids that want to stay in California and play their games in California, it could help Big West schools. Because if you look at the Big West, I think the Big West is all California teams now. And the Big West is a very competitive conference. So maybe the trickle effect is the kid that doesn't want to travel, across the country,
Right.
To play might be more willing to pass up a bigger conference to go play in the Big West now. So we'll see. We'll see kind of what happens with that, but I don't know. I can't predict that.
Well, to me, it's the WAC, Big West, whatever consolidation occurs. I think it's obviously West Coast baseball, in my opinion, is some of the best baseball, not only in the country but played in the world. I mean, I was fortunate enough to watch a lot of that in the late 1980s and early 90s as a player and as a coach, and obviously now as a dad with my sons, we would go out to California. So when you're recruiting, you really have a lot of talent at those JUCO levels. Are you active in the portal, plan to be active in the portal, or is that something that you're going to focus on high school and JUCO?
Yeah, I think our main plan is still going to be to focus on high school and junior college kids, and trying to find those high school kids that maybe are a diamond in the roughs that we can project out. Maybe as a junior in high school, they're not ready to go play at University of Texas, but do we feel like with three years of strength training and development on the field, by their sophomore year, could they be a player that could play anywhere in the country? So I think that's the fun part of recruiting high school kids is, every coach in the country is looking for that kid that can play anywhere but wants to come to their school and do it, for us, for Grand Canyon. Or it's being able to identify a kid that is maybe under the radar that you feel can be as good as a big Power 5 player. So we're always going to try to stay with recruiting high school kids. And then the junior colleges are so good around here that, when we have needs for an older class like we do this year, we've already been in contact with all the Arizona junior colleges and started to, talk to some guys, and excited to see them when this recruiting window opens up. And then the portal's always there for us. I think it just be to fill a late need. You kind of assess your team. Maybe you lose guys to the draft, or have situations, as we talked about, a lot of kids that maybe leave Arizona want to come back sometimes. So they might go out of state and then they want to come back. And we've gotten a couple of good players out of the portal that went somewhere else, and just wanted to come home. And I think that's how we're going to use the transfer portal. But I don't ever envision us being a program that's just going to try to get a huge amount of guys from the transfer portal. I want guys that are here and can grow in the program. And I think when you talk about investment and kind of buy-in to what the program's about, I want the majority of the guys to be here as freshmen and sophomores and juniors, or transfer in as from a junior college. So we definitely have gotten some portal guys, but I want to stick with freshmen and junior college guys mainly.
Now, this is a question that a parent had sent me a couple weeks ago, and I kind of want to end it here. I saved this for you.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to your location geographically, parents want to know, is there an advantage with all of these spring training homes in Arizona with regard to the professional scouts seeing your guys more frequently?
Mm-hmm.
Do those schools that are in Florida and Arizona have an advantage now with the Major League draft being predominantly Division I baseball players that are getting drafted? Do you feel it's advantageous for a prospective student athlete to be at Grand Canyon due to the proximity of all the Major League spring training facilities nearby?
Yeah, I do. And, I just think that's part of the reason why we feel like Grand Canyon can still be we've done well, but we can still be a program that's on the rise. And we're very visible to the professional scouting community. Like we talked about, there's only 3 Division I schools in Phoenix, or in the state of Arizona. And most of our 4 corner scouts live in Phoenix because you got, obviously, tradition, the ASUs, the U of A's. And then with us, being the 3rd Division I option now, we tend to get a lot of eyes on us, a lot of scouts, that will come and see our players multiple times. So I think that's helped us in the draft. We've averaged basically, even in the 20-round draft, 4 players a year that have been drafted or signed. The last 2 years, even in the 20-round draft, it's been four guys that have got a chances to go out to play pro ball. And, we're looking to continue that. But I do feel like we have an advantage, right? Because you look at some other states and you got so many decisions to make. If there's one scout, covering Southern California, for example, well, look at all the schools in Southern California that on a Friday night are going to have good players to see. And then out here, it's us, it's ASU, or it's U of A when you talk about Friday night, and obviously the junior colleges play during the day. So as a scout, you go see, Yavapai or Central Arizona or South Mountain in the day, and then you come to GCU, ASU, or U of A at night. And it's, it's just, it is definitely an advantage, I think, where we're located and to be seen by the professional community.
Well, it's definitely, at least the trend with regard to the draft would tell us that it is become Division I emphasis with regard to draft picks. So that's tremendous insight and acknowledgement on your behalf for parents and student athletes. But Gregg, I want to say thank you very, very much. I know this is a very busy time of year. On behalf of Dave and myself, we're really honored that you took some time to join us here today. And if there's anything that we can ever do for you, whether it's with regard to, student athletes or anything along those lines, if you want us to get any information out on your camps, we're happy to do so. And it's been a pleasure talking with you today.
Oh, thanks, Walter. And yeah, tell Coach Serrano that I'm sorry he missed it, but I know he was going to, I played for him and then I started my coaching career. So I'm sorry he missed this, but I know he was going to be coming at me.
He was going to come at you. Oh yeah.
I'm actually not that sorry that he missed it, because I knew he was going to throw some jokes my way maybe. But
he had a story he was dying to tell. But now that he's back in the coaching ranks, he's finding things a little hectic just to get started here. But
yeah.
I will let him know you said hello. And Greg, thank you so much. Best of luck, not only in the fall, but in 2024 and beyond.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Walter. I really appreciate it. Okay.
Thanks.